Hi, this is Scott Amyx, and I'm joined by Claire Tomkins, CEO of Future Family. Claire, welcome.
Thank you, Scott. Great to be here.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is that this notion of fertility is something that's very personal to you. You personally have experienced this as you start to, have your family. Maybe if it's okay, if you could share a little bit about your personal journey as it relates to fertility.
Yeah, certainly. And I think, this is unfortunately not a completely uncommon experience, but now that so many of us are starting our families in our 30s or even 40s, 2016 being the very first year on record in the US that more of us gave birth in our 30s than in our 20s. So just a huge shift. I was certainly one of those people who in my early 30s was very focused on my career but also wanting to start a family. And my pathway was multiple rounds of IVF. And it just was at the time a very complicated journey. It was difficult. It was isolating and lonely, going through all those rounds of treatment. And it came with a huge price tag. So eye-opening experience that ultimately led me to leave my job and start Future Family.
When I think about my kind of 40 years or so on Earth, and I think about kind of the big milestones and what I consider kind of the big happy moments, it's all related to my family. And I can't even begin to fathom what it's like to start and try to have a family, but it's so difficult. And there's this cost prohibition, but then there's this emotional toil and physical toil as well that the women as well as their spouses have to go through. What would you say, kind of the hardest moment for you in that journey?
Yeah, at this point, I think a lot has been kind of written and said about this topic, and it's amazing how similar the experiences are for women who struggle to get pregnant and face fertility challenges. The moments that often are the hardest, and certainly were for me, would be like the poignant moments when, a friend would share the news about their, pregnancy, and you'd feel this poignant twitch of very excited for your dear friend and very sad for yourself. So I think, there's a lot of emotion around it. It's classically been a hard topic to talk about. But the good news is it's also getting more attention as being a very common experience. I think something that was an inflection point for me was kind of finding the right clinic and the right doctor and having kind of more of a care team, a bunch of nurses who were very supportive that this would work out, that even if it was a journey, that there would be a happy moment at the end. And there certainly was, right? I have a 5-year-old daughter. I also have a set of twins. All of my kids are IVF. And, I think that was a key ingredient for starting Future Family. It was this realization that if tech is going to solve healthcare, particularly fertility, it's going to bring a lot more personalization. And so we have this amazing network now of nurses who come from the clinical fertility world, but have deep compassion and empathy, and they work one-on-one with all of our clients. The insights that they provide around fertility is really the emotional support, the piece that, so many of us going through this need to hear, which is there is a pathway forward, there is going to be an outcome, kind of to have that support layer as you go through something that's as complicated as fertility.
Yeah, that's a really great point that you're making in terms of that emotional support that you're talking about. It's not just the professional medical support that you need, but someone that's knows what you're going through and have seen that life cycle multiple times with multiple patients. So based on your personal experience and some of the lessons that you learned, how have you crafted Future Family, and why is that business model different from what's already out there?
Yeah, so the vision around the company and kind of what we wanted to build was, and there are a number of us here at the company who've been through fertility, either personally or with friends, but who are really passionate about creating the experience that we wish we had. And I think some of the ingredients of that experience are very much what you get when you sign up at Future Family, when you join Future Family. We're a membership-based care model, so you can join and start working with a coach even today. And so the idea was we wanted to provide informed fertility care. It's very confusing. A lot of people spend hours on Google. There's a new study that shows that couples are spending upwards of, sometimes 50, 60 hours researching, Google. So we want to sort of provide an opportunity to get informed care we wanted to have that emotional support, that touch layer with someone who personally cares about you. And then we also wanted to break down the barriers financially. So we really have an end-to-end solution. When you join, you start working with a fertility coach right away. That's your personal coach who gets to know you and your partner and what your goals are, and not only make sure you are informed for the entire journey, but it's also someone who's a touch point for you every day that you're going through active treatment. And that can be such an important and valuable support system that doesn't exist outside of the care that we offer. And then, of course, we just believe that it shouldn't be stressful to pay for fertility treatments. So many people need this. It's becoming mainstream. So our IVF plans uniquely start at around $350 a month, and you can choose the term of your plan, and it's a completely flexible, modern arrangement as you would expect. So if you want to prepay or at some point in the future close out a plan or take out a new one, all of that is possible on the platform.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is that it combines the best of technology. It's got the automation and the back end behind it, but you also have this layer of human concierge, that personal touch and coaching and support. And then, of course, you try to address some of the biggest pain points, such as the financial aspect as well. So you're really addressing really the biggest hurdles to successful fertility. Now, you use a couple of terms that's very important. I think from a value proposition and messaging, you use the term stress-free. Tell us why that is so important in terms of messaging and why that resonates with families that's out there.
Well, if you've either been through fertility treatment yourself or you know someone who has, then usually what the terms that come to mind are kind of anything but stress-free. Usually it's, as I mentioned, you spend hours and hours kind of self-researching what's going to happen on your journey. It's a very traditional healthcare system, so you typically can't get any after-hours support. And yet, again, if you've been through fertility care, you know that so much of what happens outside of the doctor's office and outside of normal working hours, including things like injections and stimulation protocols and a lot of other pieces of fertility. So I think, this idea that we want to personalize it, that we want to make it so that you have a layer. Stress is not going to obviously contribute to a positive outcome. So we've been very meticulously working through all the ways that we can make this an easy process, a supported process. It, for some people, may require multiple rounds of IVF. For me, it certainly did. But to make sure that you feel that you can get from where you're starting to a successful outcome has been the entire goal of what we've built.
Well, I think the fact that the people that's architecting this business model are the very women that have gone through this multiple times, I think it speaks in volume. Let's talk a little bit about the business itself. In terms of, mass personalization, that is, it requires quite a bit of technology because you're trying to provide that high touch, but still drive that marginal cost down. So tell us about some of the technologies that you're utilizing. You mentioned off hours. Are you using chats? What are you using to make sure that they have that connection, that touch and support, but again, from a cost structure, it's low for you guys?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, this is probably playing just generally into the broader healthcare trend. I'm a big believer that, that telehealth will eat so much of sort of traditional healthcare, right? There's certain cases where you absolutely need to be inside a medical facility. And in fertility, that's no different. I mean, your ultrasound, your retrieval, there's certain pieces of your care that you're going to get what I would refer to as in-clinic or on-site. But the majority of care is now starting to move online, right? So I was very excited. I mean, I'm obviously a fan that I moved on my home screen is my Future Family app. In my app, I can connect directly with my coach, which is, the pinnacle of all of the care that we offer. And so it's an app-based system. You can schedule with your coach, talk to your coach, email. Most of our clients are on video for their welcome consult. It's how we get to know you. But then the rest of the relationship can be transacted over text and email or phone calls. We do a lot of medication administration on video, but it really is a telehealth model. We have some of the best clinical fertility nurses in the nation who provide direct one-on-one care to our clients. And it is a distributed model in the sense that they're not all based in San Francisco. In fact, they're time zone specific, but it's an amazing way to get the top providers to plug into our system and then be available to you when you need them.
And if I'm understanding correctly, these nurses are acting as independent 1099 contractors and not full-time FTEs, but it's a platform that allows for them to be fully utilized, that
Mhm.
perhaps maybe they have some bandwidth and they can actually start to earn more income through your platform. And of course, on the receiving side, they get the personal touch that they need.
Yeah, so one correction there. They're actually either full-time employees or part-time employees.
Mm.
Um, we just very much believe in that model. But I think that the interesting mix that you alluded to is that we do have some part-time employees on our system. And the idea is, right, that in addition to the benefits that we provide as a business to our clients, the other side of it is that we provide a very flexible work structure for some of our amazing nurses. And I'm sure you can connect the dots, but it is the case that there are lots of people out there looking for flexible work. And so again, I mean, that's going to be one of the benefits of how not just Future Family, but healthcare in general and more digital and virtual services allow people to have more flexible work structures. So we do that for our nurses and for our employees, but they are actually all employees of Future Family.
Terrific. That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. So let's transition, talk a little bit about femtech funding.
Mm-hmm.
When you were in the process of getting your early stage, and then I think most recently Series A, and then you also had a line of credit of $100 million or so.
Yeah.
Talk about what is that environment like when you started, and how has it gone better perhaps since then?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of things. I mean, obviously, we're kind of having a moment here where we're talking a lot more about femtech markets and about, and I think fertility is obviously not just for women. It really is a broader topic, but certainly talking about opening up more of these markets. So I think one, it's like very, very positive. It's a moment where there's broader realization about how many markets out there are very large and very untapped, and how, as with most entrepreneurship, having real product intuition can be one of the most successful ways to tackle those markets. So personally, like, just always trying to encourage more women to start companies, because I think there's such huge untapped markets that require entrepreneurs who understand the problems intimately and are passionate about solving them. So it really is like this, rising tide of entrepreneurship and just kind of trying to get the word out. I frequently field calls from investors, not only in Future Family, but who I've met along the way, who are always asking, can you introduce me to more entrepreneurs who are attacking these big, female or femtech markets, more women who are doing exciting ventures. So I just hope that pool grows, because I think there's a huge appetite for investment now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I would personally love to see more of women startups, startup founders, as well as on the venture side, those that are actually deciding the funding decisions as well. I recently went to this pitch where I was a VC judge, and I was so impressed with the diversity, the women, as well as just the other background diversity. And the top 3 winners were all women. And it was just amazing. So I love to see more of that. So I think what you're saying is right on. Let's talk a little bit about your financing structure and how that helps with one of the biggest issues around fertility, which is really the fundamental cost. So tell us about, how are you utilizing this $100 million line of credit to make fertility treatment affordable, so that they're not having to pay these huge upfront costs?
Yeah, so this was one of the most exciting things that we did last year, and something that we had been in the works for some time. The vision was that we should build the first ever dedicated financing fund for fertility in the US, right? It's a huge market, lot of demand for services, and there's no question that the affordability gap is real. And it doesn't matter whether you are facing this as an unexpected expense, or you maybe knew that this was coming. Primarily in your 30s and 40s, a lot of other financial obligations when you suddenly have an elective out-of-pocket healthcare expense that could top $20,000, $30,000. So we wanted to make that not the barrier to getting world-class care and to moving forward. So the fund was set up with Atalaya. They've been a great partner to us, based in New York. And the concept is that is dedicated financing capital. And we use that capital essentially to fund personal fertility loans for all of our members on the platform. And, we have worked extremely hard, and because we control our own fund, we have the most competitive interest rates in the market. That is not a tenet of how we're sort of trying to make money. We want to make this affordable. We are also packaging that with a lot of other services. So when you take out an IVF plan with Future Family, you're going to get, as I had mentioned, the opportunity to work with a personal fertility coach, and you're going to get a package of support services that include preparation for all your doctor visits, daily debriefs, payment management, logistics support, medication training, not to mention the most important after-hours support function.
I mean, this is really holistic. It's really taking very much a needs-based strategy and really thinking through what does a woman and the family really need and making sure that you're hitting all of it, which is pretty ambitious. It really is. And one question I have, and again, I know you guys just rolled it out last year, but what's the kind of repayment that you're seeing, payback period, and just creditworthiness? Is that working out okay?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was also a question you could imagine. I fielded a lot during our initial Series A raise, and sort of there have been concerns that not every single cycle of IVF is successful. So as a company, right, our passion and our mission really is to help everyone build the family of their dreams. And I think that that's what everyone here is excited about. So for some people that involves multiple rounds. So it was very important to us that we could package a plan that would be affordable if you needed multiple rounds of IVF. And I think we've successfully done that. So clients of ours who might need another cycle can come back and get another cycle. We also rolled an innovative product earlier this year that expands the way that your family can help you go through fertility. I mean, this is not something you should have to do alone. It's a unique area coming up on Thanksgiving where your family is willing to support you. So we now have the ability for particularly parents, but also siblings, to take out a plan on someone's behalf. So again, if the plan starts at $350, $400 a month, we have lots of parents who are willing to help their kids in contribution to becoming a grandparent, take out these plans. So we've really been focused on building access around the affordability gap. And then, as it ties to the business side, I think this is a great thing about credit markets in general, and certainly our business is extremely low rates of any sort of default on our platform. We're offering a highly personalized service. We have a personal relationship with all of our clients, but more than that, we're invested in their success. So we help them continue to go forward when they need it. And then just the business point would be, it was always our thesis, and our CFO would talk about this openly, that credit markets are based on underwriting, not per se like outcomes of certain procedures, and that's very much proven to be the case.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I really am very impressed with the crowdsourcing model, which is kind of like 529 plans where families and others can actually pay into somebody else's plan.
Yeah, we invented that.
I love that, and it becomes a communal and a network and a support. Because the thing is, like you said early on, it's a very lonely journey, and people know that you're going through the process, but to know that you're not only helping financially, but you're showing that you're emotionally connected and you're there step by step. And I think that's a tremendous value.
Yeah.
One last question that I have for you is, what was your greatest product or company innovation failure? And what's a lesson learned that you can share with others?
Yeah, I think that probably the hardest thing in general is just the nature of us being a fintech company. So I think for us, what's always been the challenge of the business is trying to get in match with how much demand you have and how much you can finance. So I will say that in the early days, not entirely sure we could have avoided this, but there was so much demand coming onto the platform that we actually had to have waiting lists. And I personally, of course, not only sold all the original deals, but had to get on the phone with clients and say, due to really high volumes, there's going to be some delays. And that was our clients stuck with us, and we're really grateful for that. But that was a really hard moment. It's just trying to get everything in sync in the early days of building a fintech company. Because remember, you're originating loans in IVF. If you originate, 20 loans, that's hundreds of thousands of working capital that goes off your balance sheet immediately. And then thankfully with your facility comes back. So that's probably, I don't want to say the dark days, but those were one of the early challenges we faced, was when we had originated too many of these plans. And then we were like, there's going to have to be a delay or a waiting list.
So today I've been joined by Claire Tomkins, CEO and founder of Future Family. Thank you for joining today.
Scott, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.